Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. My name is Gleb. You can follow me on social media at Gleb Lapham.
My name is Mitch. You can follow me at Meet to the Beach.
And you can also follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube at tdtmotorcycles. And you can also send us emails with any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, or topic suggestions at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. And today, another Valentine's Day, which by the time this airs is already passed. And by the time we're recording is already passed. We're going to be talking about riding one-up or riding with a pillion. And for those of you that are new to motorcycling, one-up or a pillion just is the back seat. So basically riding with another person.
Yeah.
And there's like a few things that you have to kind of like consider when you have a person on the back.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit extra weight. It's a bit extra... Like you kind of notice it.
It's noticeable, and like if you haven't done it before, if you're a new rider, you haven't taken a passenger, it may be a little intimidating at first because you think it's going to be super different. But there's some things that you can do to kind of set yourself up. You and your passenger, you can set yourself up pretty well together for. So.
But before we jump into our main topic, we have a bit of news, and I'm going to start with a bit of a sad note because Indian has decided to discontinue the FTR 1200. That's kind of like their flat track inspired cafe racer type bike. This is a quote from Ride Apart. They reached out to Indian Motorcycles to further kind of clarify on that. And Indian's response was, Indian Motorcycle regularly reviews its portfolio, critically evaluating where to focus investments to have the biggest impact for riders, as well as position the brand for continued growth throughout development of products that reflect emerging trends and rider preferences. After careful consideration, Indian Motorcycle made the decision to discontinue the FTR lineup. The decision aligns with the Indian Motorcycle's long-term vision to focus on models and technologies that represent the future of the brand. As FTR is a small part of Indian Motorcycle's overall portfolio, this decision enables the brand to focus investments on platforms as well as future products and technologies in the pipeline. So I'm a little bummed to see it because I thought it was kind of a cool bike. Mm-hmm. You didn't care as much for it?
I really like the look about it, and there was a few YouTubers I've watched back in the day. They had nothing but good things to say about it, but that was the 1200. I think we rode the smaller one.
There's only the 1200.
Which one?
FTR.
Oh, did we ride the 1200?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
There's
well, in that case, I'll say
different trims of it.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, I'll say for a 1200, it's a pretty light. It was a well packaged bike.
Yeah.
I will say that.
I remember like some of the complaints that you had is you really noticed everything about it. The bumps, the vibration, it feels like not really refined.
It's like, and I don't know if that was like, I don't know what suspension's on that bike. Mm-hmm. But if it's like a high end suspension that other manufacturers use, like it can't be that. It's got to be the way like that frame like disperses forces.
And I do agree with you. It is a lot more vibey of a bike. It feels like it feels more gruff.
Yeah.
Like it feels like
and not just
it's
bumps
a little
in the
rough
road.
around the edges. Like you feel everything.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what gave it a little bit of the character. But the engine it had, that V-twin,
it was peppy.
It was nice. A really torquey, fun engine.
The only other complaint I have about it, and maybe this is like sharing too much about my anatomy, but like you sit down in that bike, and what I noticed about it was like an ice cream scoop. Everything just got like kind of wedged up.
It's just talking about his giant balls.
It's just like, the seat just didn't go well with me, and like what accentuated that, in my opinion, was that like the way everything was just kind of scooped with how weird that seat felt to me.
Yeah.
The vibrations from that really nice engine. The bike was just super buzzy.
It was very buzzy.
Not just like suspension, like just jumping on the road, bumping on the road and stuff, but just the engine itself. Like it is a buzzy really bike. Buzzy for. Yeah.
But part of me why I think it's a little sad to see this though is like, I think that was like I feel like that was the only non-cruiser bike from an American brand. Because I don't think Harley has anything that's not a cruiser.
Well, I guess
the Pan America, I guess, is not a cruiser.
Well, and I guess it depends on like how you classify an American manufacturer, but like isn't Buell, but they're more like Chinese owned, aren't they?
Oh, that's true. It's American brand.
Yeah.
It's like depending where manufactured, but I totally forgot about Buell.
They're not very on our,
yeah.
They're expensive, I think. So we should do more about them.
Maybe. Yeah. But
no, yeah. it is sad. Even though I don't like the bike, what I wanted to say was I agree. It is sad because like not only was it like Indians probably only their non-cruiser bike, you know, much. But also it was like it was a unique bike. Like you could pinpoint it. The art on it, like on that gas tank, was super nice. The headlight, the tech on it was really good.
I really like that, and I'm a fan of Indian bikes. I think I'm not a big cruiser person, but I think I really like the looks of their bikes. And I've rode like the Scout a couple of times, the Indian Scout, and I thought it was cool, but it's just not comfortable for me.
I get it, yeah. And so that's to me that's the tragedy, is that we're just losing like a little bit of a
something unique.
Yeah.
Something different. And then in other more uplifting news, I guess, a new bike, and that's the Ducati announced the 2025 Ducati Diavel V4. We both rode the older Diavel.
Yeah.
And that is a hell of a bike.
I love that bike.
It is so torquey and so quick. It just feels like a beast.
You just feel like just such a badass too, because you really give that bike like an engine, that muscle cruiser, and everything just takes off.
It's got that like very grunty exhaust note, and the seating position. It's kind of like cruiser light, I would say. Like it's like foot pegs are like forward-ish, but they're not like
super
they're
far.
Not like straight out like you would on the actual cruiser.
Yeah,
and it was just like a well-balanced bike. It felt like, even though it was a bit on the heavier side, like it felt pretty nimble. It had a ton of power, and it was a blast to ride. But now they have a replacement. It's a V4, so they kind of moved on from their old naming of it, because it was like the 12 something, the old one.
Yeah.
Now it's the V4. It's a similar engine. That's this engine is derived from the engine that's in the Panigale V4 and the Street Fighter V4. But obviously, like, because it's a different kind of bike, it's probably, it's tuned a little bit different. And one of the biggest things that it has is a 37,000 mile valve check interval, which is a lot of miles. And it's making me happy that it seems like we're seeing more and more bikes with higher valve clearance check intervals.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the most expensive like service items, just because it's depending on the bike, but it's a very involved like service.
Yeah, but think about how long it takes you, even in a car, to get to 37,000 miles.
Yeah, that's true.
Zero.
Yeah.
You know?
So you'll probably be good for a long time. Bless you.
Excuse me.
And then the further specs for the engine. So it's an 1158cc V4 Gran Turismo engine, pumping out 168 horsepower and 93 pound-feet of torque. It's got, and it comes in at 505 pounds without fuel. Man. So, and it has a 5.3 gallon fuel tank. So you do the math on how much it weighs with fuel. I'm not going to. It's got 50 millimeter fully adjustable forks up front. I didn't see anything in the press release about the rear suspension, but I'm assuming it's going to have adjustable preload and stuff, because there is packages available for it that allow you to spec it out to comfortably carry a passenger and all that. So I'm assuming the rear has to have preload. Most bikes have preload in the rear.
Yeah.
Brembo brakes up front. A claimed 0 to 60 time in under 3 seconds, and I definitely believe it, considering the previous generation was really, really quick.
Yeah.
And I don't see this one being slower. Featuring 4 riding modes: sport, touring, urban, and wet. Standard quick shifter, standard cruise control, launch control, 6.9-inch TFT with Bluetooth connectivity and turn-by-turn navigation, single-sided aluminum swing arm, and this part I thought was kind of interesting. So even though it is a cruiser style, so your foot pegs are a little bit further forward.
Yeah.
So Ducati actually is going to sell a foot pad kit that will allow you to move them further back.
Interesting.
To make it a more of like a standard motorcycle like seating position.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. It's going to be available in 2 colors. Burning red, starting at $28,995.
Yeah.
So pick and choose whether you want a bike or a car. Or black lava, starting at $29,295. And obviously they're going to have a ton of accessories for it and stuff. We were just watching like their press release like video about it. Some of the accessories they mentioned involves like a more comfortable like touring seat for the passenger, some like armrests and stuff, and a backrest, as well as hard-sided panniers. Yeah. So it's kind of a touring slash
muscle
cruiser bike, but one of the things
unique.
It is unique. Yeah. One of the things that I remember stood out to me from the one that we rode is that seat is so damn comfortable.
So
I don't know what it is,
comfy.
but it's the perfect shape for my ass, and my cheeks just fit right on it.
Yeah.
It's like just wide enough, just sculpted enough. I'm like, it's like it was made for me.
That might just be the magic Italian cushioning, because like even on the Multistrada, that seat was super comfy.
Yeah.
So.
There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
They're giving the BMW a run for their money with a GS seat.
Yeah, right.
The GS is really comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of cool to see the new bike, and I'm a big fan of I like the Diablo, and this one has a pretty cool look to it. I feel like it has a bit of has that standard headlight. They kind of redid it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought it does look like pretty sweet.
That is really cool.
There's some pictures for it. Yeah, like I was saying, like the headlight on it just has this kind of a cool shape.
It kind of looks like the new Monster headlight.
Yeah, I think they share. It feels like they share like a similar design language between the two. My favorite thing is though that back wheel and that quad exhaust.
Yeah, the quad exhaust on the Diablo, you guys.
So cool.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen a Diablo, you should look one up, or like walk into your local dealership and just take a peek.
Yeah, because that quad exhaust just looks sick. It just looks like, it reminds me of like a rocket launcher.
A little bit
like that.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. So that was your sad news, happy news.
My sad news: bike going away, new bike added. Yeah.
I guess it's not even really news. It's just speculation that's been happening. This is for anybody that is across the pond in the UK. Motorcycle News, there's a few articles from the website on there that the UK is looking at potential changes to their licensing structure.
Interesting.
So it says here that the government is considering plans to review existing requirements for motorcycle training, testing and licensing. And that's a quote from a spokesperson from the Department for Transportation. They want to take account of the long-standing plans in the DFT and DVSA, or that's their driver and vehicle standards agency.
Okay.
I guess that's sounds like our DMV and
pretty much.
DOT.
Yeah.
On there. So, and this is an American's quick lookup of how your guys' structuring works. This is not
if
solid.
Any of our like UK listeners or like any other countries,
if you know,
I would actually be really curious if you want to shoot us an email and let us know like how motorcycle like training and licensing works in your country. I'm really curious to find out about that, because here it's stupid easy, and I think we've talked about it before
a little bit.
Yeah, it's here. It's like I feel like it needs to be a little bit more involved.
Yeah,
but it's whatever. Not the topic for this episode.
Yeah,
regardless.
Yeah, we've talked about it. But so again, this is just an American's very basic glance of how it works over there. But the current licensing system for the UK is riders take part in up to 3 two-part tests in order to achieve a full unrestricted license. So you have different tiers of your licensing, and they range from A1 to A2 and a full A. And there's an associated CBT and theory test. So I'm guessing it's like a written test, and I'm guessing a CBT is like your practice.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming like the full A just means you have no restrictions.
Yeah, it's a full unrestricted license, like basically what we got in a course of 2 days for a lot less.
And I'm assuming theirs takes a lot longer than 2 days and probably a lot more involved, which I'm like not sad that it only took 2 days for me to get my
I'm not
motorcycle
either.
Endorsement. But
it was way too easy.
Some of the writers we've seen, like...
It's way too easy.
Yeah. Like you see all sorts of stories and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's probably a little bit more
We could do a little something.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the same thing about just the driving tests.
Yeah.
Like getting a driver's license in the U.S. as well. It's stupid easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of a joke.
Yeah. And like,
there's a lot of shitty drivers.
Yeah. And, then there's an argument to be made for both sides of like, what's accessible, what's reasonable for people to get and everything from there. But there's a quote from the MCIA, which is the Motorcycle Industry Association. Their CEO, Tony Campbell, says, "We're encouraged by the minister's recognition of the industry's contributions and the commitment to aligning safety, decarbonization, and mobility goals. Any review must consider the whole of the L category sector and not just motorcycles." And I had to look this up. An L category vehicle is traditional motorcycle, scooter, sidecar, mopeds, like 3-wheel mopeds, trikes, quad cycles, and like 4-wheelers, things like that.
Okay.
So they're looking to say, if you're going to be evaluating your licensing on these, you need to look at everything else, not just motorcycle license.
That makes sense.
And if these changes do move forward, the MCIA has also said that we have some proposals that we're working on that lets people get in at it more affordably, more accessibly, and then we can also bring in some more innovation into the market. So maybe easing up a little restriction could help, but also keeping it more responsible than how we do it over here.
Yeah.
So and that's all just potential. So I think
the argument like we have with cars and stuff, like our public transportation's garbage.
It's non-existent almost.
Yeah, outside of like big cities like New York or maybe Chicago, and even then you're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
New York's probably like the most public transit friendly city in the U.S.
Yeah.
But like here in the West, you pretty much need a car if you want to get anywhere within any amount of time. So I understand like not wanting to make it too hard, but man, there's some shitty drivers out there on the road, especially when it snows. The other day we just had that big snowstorm, and all the roads were just
bad.
Like everything, like all of Google Maps was just like red, orange, or yellow.
And I didn't have to deal with any of it.
Luckily I didn't either, but because my commute's so short.
Yeah. But no, so I see it both ways. I mean, this is kind of like more of like a central view on it of just like, I see here in the US, it's too easy.
Yeah. Some countries it's way too hard.
Yeah. And I think the UK, definitely seems a lot harder over there. Yeah. I mean, 3 different tiers. Who knows how long that takes?
Yeah.
I will post that article, the link to the article from Motorcycle News on the episode.
Okay.
Because going through that article, it has like some writers from the UK give their input on it. And so some people...
That'd be interesting too. See.
So some people seem to like it, others not. But so
makes sense. Yeah.
Not really news, but interesting.
No, it's news.
Yeah. So hopefully... We're hoping that it can just be easier regardless and safe for our UK riders.
In general, like here and around the world, because motorcycles are cool.
Yep.
And more people should ride them. They're good for traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So
should we jump into our main
I think
topic?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Shorter news roundup. Finally.
And just real quick, if you are planning on buying motorcycle gear with, it's February, it's still winter, but now's a good time to buy snag some stuff for on sale, snag some supplies for next riding season.
It's coming up.
Yep, it's coming up. Yeah. And if you're planning on buying some stuff, feel free to check out our Revzilla affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does give us a little bit of a kickback if you do end up buying something using the link. So helps the podcast, helps support the podcast. Or if you're not planning on buying anything, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. Feel free to donate like whatever you want, really. Like, we're grateful for anything.
Hell, if you just want to listen to us while you drink your own coffee, I'm good with that too.
That's good too. As long as you're listening, that's really what we care about.
And we're entertaining you.
Yep.
Don't let us bore you.
Yep, exactly. So feel free to do that. And our main topic, once again, is riding one up or riding with a pillion rider. And it's, like we said at the beginning, it's a little bit more involved than just having a person like hop onto the back. I mean, it can be as involved as not involved, but we promote safety. We like to promote safety on this podcast. We like to make sure that our listeners and people we know like ride safe. And if you will have another person on the back of your bike, you're also responsible for their safety. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the big things I want to start off with, like if you just bought a bike and it's your first bike ever, you've never ridden before, don't take a passenger. Don't put a passenger on it.
Yeah,
as cool as it might be to like show it off to your girlfriend or whoever, like
to your mans,
like whoever your partner is, like as cool as that sounds, learn how to ride good first before you have anyone else ride on it. I think I had my bike for maybe like 2 or 3 years before I even took a pillion. And that's not necessarily because I didn't want to. It was mainly because like I didn't really have anyone that I cared to.
I think I've had it was about a year and a half or 2 years before I put. I think
mine was like 2 or so.
Yeah.
And it's just something like to consider. But how should we go about this? Should we go over safety first or how to ride with a pillion first?
I think we should just kind of get in like the mindset of riding with a passenger first. So like looking up what stuff that you should do as the operating rider, things to set yourself up for even before you get to your bike, right?
Yeah.
Fort9 has a really good video on riding with the passenger. It's pretty old now at this point in the video.
I mean, all their stuff is great though. Go watch it.
But that video does point out some really good points of you want to have a talk with your rider or with your passenger, and say, hey, like when we're going slow, and when I say slow, like, we're 10, 15-ish miles, and anything above that would be considered high speed.
Yeah.
For as far as the passenger is concerned, is like, so when we're going slow, like, or regardless, like just lean whichever way I lean. Yeah. So if we're slowing and if we're turning left, I'm going to be probably leaning to the right. So I want you to lean with me. Yep. And just stay aligned with that. I think that's like a really big one, just to make sure like the bike feels comfortable. Yeah, I agree. And to keep like what feels right going. Because once you do get speed up, like that centrifugal force keeping you upright, it does work to your advantage pretty well. Yeah,
you don't notice it as much. Yeah. But I will say, like at lower speeds, you definitely notice the extra weight on the back, and like putting the foot down and stopping and stuff, you need a little more conviction in your leg. Yeah, you really feel it, and it's one of those times when like you got to 2-foot this most likely, and depending on your bike, but depending on your passengers too. But no, like definitely, even with like a very light passenger, you still notice because it's a whole other person. I've had my nephew. He was hanging on the back. I took him just around the block, and he was, I think, 4 or something at this point. Yeah. And even then I could feel, because we're just going very slow, it's like, I got someone, I got to make sure that they're safe. And and it feels different than like even having like luggage on your bike and stuff, because it's more top heavy. The person's sitting upright versus your saddlebags on the side, or even the top box, which is not that high up. Yeah. So you still feel like that tipping point's like way more noticeable. Yeah. And I guess it depends on the luggage you're packing, but typically a person should be heavier than your luggage. Yeah, unless you have Moscow bags. Yeah, unless you're mine are pretty heavy. Yeah, but, no, it's still like lighter than. It's gonna be lighter than a human. Most people. Yeah. So, but like part of your braking is like that friction that gets applied as your suspension shifts weight. Yep. That's going to affect. So having a person is going to affect your weight, just like it does with your luggage. Maybe not as much, but you feel a lot more. You feel a lot more in the acceleration. Basically, like everything feels more accentuated. Like a little bit, yeah. One of the things that I like to do anytime I have had like a person want to do like ride passenger and stuff is especially if they don't know anything about motorcycles, if they've never been on a motorcycle before, I like to kind of go and give them like a little safety briefing and kind of tell them like what to do and what not to do. So I think that'd be probably something good to talk about. And one of the things is I remember seeing this, like, I think it was like on the Reddit post at one point, because I was looking it up at the time. And I was like, okay, what should, like, if there's anything I'm like forgetting it's a little more involved than just like, oh, hop on the bike and ride. Yeah. First, I like to make sure that I have at least some spare gear for them. Like, I would not give anyone a ride with like a helmet or anything like that. Yeah, I've turned down rides because like any of the spare helmets I had didn't fit right. Yeah. So, and like at least something needs to be on the head, like protected. I have an extra motorcycle jacket, so I'll probably offer that. As far as like pants and boots and stuff, kind of have to just make do.
I just told
don't like, drop your passenger.
Yeah. I've told my passengers who haven't ridden bikes or they've been curious about getting riding, but they want to be on one first. You know, it's like okay, I'll take you for a ride. Like, but you're gonna just grab some gloves because I tell them basically the same thing at the MSF.
Yeah.
It's like if my one of my spare helmets fits you, perfect.
Yeah.
But just bring some like leather gloves, like work gloves even.
Yeah.
And just wear some ankle high boots, and that's all we're gonna be doing.
Ankle high boots.
And I'll bring a jacket for you,
like jeans or long pants, gloves, and then obviously like helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I also have like spare earplugs that I give because
that's smart. I should
hella
do that.
loud.
Yeah, it is. I should probably do that this time.
And then like the helmet and stuff. And as much as I do want like a proper fitting helmet, sometimes it doesn't quite work. But as long as it's not like easily slipped off their head, I feel like you'll make do. Yeah. Especially if it's like a short ride. Just be like way more extra careful. Yeah. One of the other thing I tell them outside of like what to wear and what to do is I kind of like walk them through or like give them a walk around the bike. Yeah. Show them like, oh, this part right here, mainly the exhaust is hot. These are your foot pegs. Yeah. This is where you're going to be like keeping your feet. Here's a grab handle in case you get nervous. There's grab handles on the side. You can grab onto me.
You can grab my love handles, my safety handles if you want.
So
that's how you're telling them. Yeah.
Yep. And just kind of show them just so they know and they're familiar with like where they can hold, where they can put their feet. And the biggest thing I like focus on is like the exhaust. Yeah. Make sure like
watch your leg.
This is hot.
Yeah.
So
especially on my bike.
Yeah. Especially on yours, and yours is high up too.
Well, that's what I mean with that scrambler pipe on there. Like you was like, hey, like just kind of watch your leg here.
Yeah. So just so they're aware of where it is. And then and that's even before we hop on the bike. Mm-hmm. And then once on the bike, I tell them like, you know, you're keeping your feet on the foot pegs at all times. I'll let them hop on first and then I'll hop on just because it's way easier, I feel like, to do it that way versus like, oh, let me hop on and make it upright. It's much harder for the passenger, I feel like, to get on. Yeah. So they'll hop on first, I'll get on after, and then when we stop, I'll hop off first and then they'll hop on after. After the foot peg's on the ground, the foot peg is gonna, or not the foot peg, the kickstand is gonna hold the bike up, no problem. And you get off first, then the passenger gets off. Yep. And then I also tell the passenger, like, don't put your feet on the ground when we're stopped. Don't try to reach the ground. My bike is tall. Yeah. Most people are not going to reach the ground anyways from the back seat. It's even higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't try to reach the ground. Just keep them upright, or keep your feet on the foot peg, and I'll also, you know, I'll do the rest.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I go with them too. I mean, maybe the only thing I do, and this is before even getting to the bike itself too, is like, you know, like if I have additional stuff, like I used to have like a few different pairs of gloves, you know, and I've taken people, like I want the stuff that's going to fit them the best.
Same. Yeah.
You know, and like someone's used a jacket and we've just like cinched everything down to make sure it stayed on.
I have done the same before.
Yeah. So that's, you pretty much covered everything. It's really not too complicated of a thing, you know, but
it's just something to kind of like think about and consider before.
Yeah. The only other things I tell them too is like, you know, as we're riding, it's like, hey, when we're going to stop, like you're going to kind of scoot into me a bit, like just keep your feet on the pegs. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's been times, hey, like feel yourself sliding forward, just kind of like pushing those pegs a little bit and just like keep yourself from sliding into me.
Yep, exactly.
And also like, watch your head because you're going to be bumping.
Yeah, I've had that happen before because
it gets annoying.
It gets annoying, and I mean but it's also understandable because they're they're not in control of the bike. They can't really like prepare themselves to stop.
Yeah, there's going to be an element of it that you can't help, but at the same time, it's like, hey, like, kind of sit up, like don't tuck down into me. Yeah. Because when I hit the brakes, you're going to be tapping the back of my helmet. Yeah. Kind of sit up a little. You can hang on if you need, wherever you need to. It's like, but just kind of like remain upright.
And I feel like after a little,
it takes a little practice.
Yeah. They kind of get used to it. It kind of reminds me of like when you're like on a bus or something. You don't know when the driver's going to like start slowing down or accelerating. So you're kind of like constantly bobbing back and forth a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of a similar thing. They don't know, they don't quite know, and it's kind of hard to see like in front of you, like too. Yeah. On the bike. But yeah, it's just something to get used to and kind of remind them, or just tell them to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Um,
So how many people have you had on your bike as a passenger?
I think just 2.
2?
Yeah, one was like a quick ride around the block, and the other one was just a ride like here in the mountains.
Yeah.
Just behind me. That one was like the longer one. That's where I kind of noticed the head bobbing and stuff, which, like I said, it's fine.
That's fair. I've had 4 or 5 people, but I guess one of those was like my nephew because he loves motorcycles.
Yeah,
he loves BMX too, so he's
that's cool.
Anytime he sees, anytime I show up on my bike, he's like, I gotta see it. But yeah, I think it's kind of that's everything as it comes to preparing yourself and your passenger, getting your gear and everything onto the bike.
So what I like to do is check my preload. So if the bike has preload adjustment, it's most likely in your manual. It's going to tell you what you should have it as if you have a passenger. Well, it'd be like passenger/luggage, passenger only, blah, blah, blah. I went ahead and like set my bike up to that. If there's any other, like if you have adjustable suspension, kind of change that stuff just to make it more comfortable for the passenger, because that's really what I care about at that point. I'm always comfortable on my bike, and then I can always switch it back, but I want them to have the best experience possible. So I'll adjust like anything necessary, make sure the foot pegs aren't falling off, which I still haven't replaced from our California trip. I don't know how that happened.
Gleb left a part of his bike in Nevada somewhere.
Yep. It's just on the side of the road.
Almost in my knee.
Almost in Mitch's knee. But yeah, like just make sure everything's like on the bike is like where it's supposed to be and secure. So the passenger doesn't have any like weird out of the blue thing that happens. It's like, what do I do now that the foot peg is gone? Or like, what do I hold on to and things like that. Make sure my tires are properly inflated, because that's going to be
your load's different.
Yeah, your load's different. It's going to be more noticeable. Basically just do the whole like checkup on your bike that you normally would do, but be a little extra vigilant with it, just so you're not like scaring the passenger off from bikes forever.
Well, like so you want to check your preload, and you can change your suspension as you need to. Like in my manual, I was looking at it not too long ago because I was bored. I don't know. But in there it has like showing it for like on road with passenger with luggage.
Yep. Mine
has a whole chart of what I need to set my stuff to. And again, that's just going to help like with the braking.
Yeah. And it's even going to help with like especially the preload. It's going to keep your bike more level, like more even. So it's going to raise the back up a little bit, so to compensate for that extra weight on the back. You do the same thing with luggage. Basically, it's to keep the not necessarily the dimensions, but like the balance of your bike roughly equal to what it is with just you on it. And that's just for on-road riding. I don't know how people ride with Pillion off-road, and I feel like that's a whole other...
I've seen it, like animal. Not in person, but I've seen videos and stuff on it. It's like, oh, we're going to do an ADV cross-continental tour 2-up, and like, and they have like clips of going on down a trail. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
That's got to be
crazy.
That's got to be like a fire road. There's no way they're doing like the stuff we hit.
Yeah. Also, I realized this whole episode I've been saying 1-up instead of 2-up.
Oh, have you? Oh, 2-up.
2-up riding. So...
Well, +1.
If you started +1, 2-up. Pillion. So if you're typing an angry comment at the beginning of the episode, go ahead and erase that.
We got it.
We got it. I caught myself.
It's funny that I didn't even catch you doing that.
Like halfway through, but it's fine. One of the things that I saw someone mention on a Reddit thread one time is if your bike has different riding modes, to put the bike in rain mode. If you have a passenger, especially one that's not familiar with riding, because it kind of dulls. One, it makes the traction control way more aggressive. And 2, it dulls the throttle response. So it kind of removes some of that jarring kind of like acceleration motion of like going back, which I think I was like, oh, that's actually really good advice, especially for someone that's not used to riding a bike, because the acceleration on the bike, I feel like you feel that so much more than in the car. In the car, you have a back seat that that you get pushed against. On the bike, you don't have that. But like when I took one of my friends up on the bike, I did do that. I put it in rain mode, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like way easier to kind of manage the throttle, and it keeps me from like really like accelerating too fast. So they're not freaking out either.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a pretty good response. And the other one I saw, one of the other advices, and I always tell this to someone if I'm giving them a ride on it, is to look into the churn.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing that too.
Look with me. Yeah.
Look to where I'm churning. One, it's going to make them naturally kind of lean in that direction. And two, I feel like it helps someone not like freak out about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm looking the other way and the bike's leaning. The opposite direction. It's kind of like, oh, do I need to like sit up? I'm like, just look, stay upright and look into the churn, just like I'm doing.
Well, and like side tangent on the whole like look where you want to go thing.
Yeah.
I hope I've said it in our show before, but like I found that to be like helpful not just in motorcycles,
but in everything,
dude. It like if I'm like playing a video game where I'm in a vehicle, like don't look at the
vehicle
you're driving, and you look where you want to go.
Yep.
It's with everything.
Yeah. Even driving cars. I snowboard. Big thing. Like after I took the MSF class and stuff, the thing I started noticing I'm doing a lot more while snowboarding is looking where I'm going instead of like looking down on my board.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to see pretty far ahead.
Yeah. So telling your passenger that is just going to naturally help them.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, hey, like if you're freaking out, it's like there's one thing you got to do. Just look where we're going.
Just look where we're going. Don't look at the bike. Don't look at like.
Don't look at the road.
Don't look at the seat. Don't look at what you're holding. Just look where we're going. Look ahead. Yep. Yeah. And you get probably like lean out of the way a little bit, but
and they can, totally.
It's fine.
Yeah. One thing that I haven't been very good about though, with having ridden with passengers, but now because I have the equipment to actually do it, is we're gonna be I can actually do in like a communication in riding, like during a ride. Yeah. Now that we have headsets and stuff.
Yep. Both of my helmets have Cardos in them. Even though one's an older Cardo, it still works.
It's in-house.
Yeah, it's in-house. And
unfortunately, I have to set my son up to.
And it makes such a big difference because you can communicate with your passenger like on the go. Yeah. And let them know like, or just check in on them. I think it makes a person a lot more comfortable if you're constantly like, hey, you're doing good. Am I going too fast?
Or even if you're just having a conversation there, you can you can enjoy the ride together.
Yeah.
And it's helpful too as you're riding with that head bumping, and as we're turning, you can give them like hey, like get ready, we're turning. Like there's a bump, we're gonna slow down.
Give them a little bit of a
heads up. Hey, we gotta swerve.
Yeah. And then anytime I feel like I try. Obviously, if I have a passenger on, I don't want to ride crazy. I don't want to do anything like
not like we're crazy riders anyway.
No. But I don't want to like spook them or anything like that. So I'll ask them like am I going a good speed, or do you want to feel like a little little like speed, speed up a little bit. But I always
where
think
it's safe.
Good. Yeah, where it's safe, obviously.
And legal.
And we're always legal. We never go faster than the speed limit on this show. Never. Always within the bounds of the law. But I kind of like let them know like, hey, is this speed good for you, or do you want me to like give it a little bit more gas, like so you can feel the speed, because the bike's capable a little bit more than than that. But if they're not like comfortable with it, they're like, oh, it's a little fast. Like, just slow down. Yeah. Just keep it nice and mellow. Don't do any like crazy sharp turns. And I've taken like a passenger up through like fairly twisty canyon here before. And I just make sure to like keep it just nice and kind of keep that flow going.
Next time you get a passenger on your bike, Gleb, you got to go up Immigration Canyon. It's fun.
I believe it.
It's a nice, that's a good ride to show somebody who's never been.
Trapper's Loop right here behind me.
Oh, true.
That's beautiful, especially in like late spring, early summer when it's all green. It's hard to pass that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically like I think the biggest thing is like as long like you got to make sure the passenger's enjoying the actual ride. Yeah. And luckily, like for us, we have bikes that are pretty comfortable. Well, I don't know. I never ridden the back of my bike. Yeah. But at least they're kind of more set up for having a passenger versus some other bikes. I've seen people ride like two up on like a sports bike or a naked like or naked sports bike or like a fully faired one.
And they have those tiny little seats.
They have tiny little seats, and the person's just basically like you're both leaning forward.
Yeah.
Just like into each other. And it's
I can't imagine the weight on the guy on the actual rider's shoulders. Look at that. Yeah. Especially in braking.
Yeah. And on the bike like that, like I feel like it's a whole different experience versus like our bikes where, they're all upright. The passenger's sitting upright. You're sitting upright. And at least the pillion seat is a little bit more, made for that versus just kind of like, oh, just in case someone sits back here, we have this seat, quote unquote. On our bikes, it's actually like, okay, it's a seat. Yeah. And I don't know if it's as comfortable as the rider's seat, but it's definitely probably better than
it doesn't matter on my bike. Yeah,
no, that's true. Yours is just one big seat. Yeah. So it's
and one thing with riding 2-up too, and I've admitted this, and I'll admit it till the day I die with my whole chest. I will ride pretty much any motorcycle myself.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be a passenger on a motorcycle again as a rider.
I've never been a passenger on a motorcycle.
I have as a child, and it was a little terrifying. And so maybe that's just my childhood memory of it.
Actually, I probably have been as a child. I just don't remember much. But my uncle back in Russia, he used to have a sidecar motorcycle.
Oh, hell yeah.
I have ridden in a sidecar before.
No, but being like a 2-up passenger before, like on a dual sport, stuff like that. It's a little freaky.
Oh, I bet.
As a child. So maybe it's just my memory. Maybe I wouldn't mind it so much now.
Yeah, probably not. But you have your own bike, so
exactly.
There's very little reason for us to.
Well, one of the reasons I like riding motorcycles is like I like being in the control of that.
Yeah.
I it's very therapeutic.
And I agree with that, and I think it's a lot different too when you're doing something like that when you're not in control.
Yeah. And
it goes for anything, like even like public transport, riding a horse. Like anything like that. Yeah. There's kind of like that little bit of like not a fear, but like you're a little bit more vigilant. You're like trying to like either brace yourself or like constantly thinking like, okay, what's this person gonna do? What's gonna happen? Like, are they slowing down, speeding up? In case you're riding a horse, that's a whole other unpredictable. Well, not really unpredictable, but it's a live animal. Like
it's
gonna fart.
Well, yeah. What I was gonna say to that too is like. With saying that, as somebody like I'll take someone as a passenger. It's like, and I'm doing it because I don't want to be a passenger. It's just like I got mad respect for people who can sit on the back of a motorcycle. Yeah, and put trust in in the rider.
I think the only time I was
gonna say you as a rider, if someone's willing to trust you, to take them on a bike, it's like, then you can also just do the due diligence of keeping them and yourself safe.
Yeah.
So
I think the only times I see myself riding on the back of another person's bike is either like mine broke down and we need to get to a town, or if like I drop my bike off at like a dealership or something like that and you just need a quick pickup to the train stop or something like that, or just something like simple and quick. I don't think I ever want to ride on the back of a bike on like a long trip or even like a short hour-long trip.
Yeah, and that just shows the difference, because like there's someone like me who doesn't want to be a passenger, but I do know there's people who's like, oh, I enjoy going for a ride on my husband's or my wife's motorcycle, or it's like being the passenger.
They like being the backpack.
Yeah, and that's fine too.
Oh yeah, so that's sold. I don't see any problem with that. No. And if your partner does like riding with you as a passenger, make sure you have a bike that is comfortable for them too. Which I'm sure most of them
get like the Ultra Glides or like a Goldwing with those armchair passenger seats, cup holders,
comfy AF.
Yeah, right. So,
and I feel like most of the time I see that's the kind of bike people are riding 2-up on.
Yeah.
Or a GS.
Yeah.
There's no in between. No, I'm just kidding. Not really, but I feel like for the adventure bikes, there's a lot of people that ride 2-up on the GS.
Yeah.
Which, if you're riding 2-up, that's probably a pretty good bike to do it on, because that back seat is a plushie, and I think it's very convenient if you have a bike that has the like electronically adjustable suspension, because then you can just select the setting like I'm riding with the passenger, figures out the preload and the suspension settings that are like optimal for that,
right,
versus having to do it manually. So
no, for sure,
there's bikes that are definitely like better for it than others. But if you want to show off a little bit to a friend or someone,
an interest,
an interest
to your interest,
then just do it on your bike as long as it has a seat.
Yeah,
a pillion seat.
Yeah, well, like, in my world, like, my girlfriend, she's not interested in riding, but one of her friends and one of my friends, like, they want to go for a ride on my bike because they're both interested in getting motorcycles, and it's
not a bad way to show someone.
So so once the weather warms up here, get my bike out, I'm gonna get it ready and serviced, and I can actually get it set up and hopefully get some new initiates into riding.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way. We're always looking for new recruits into the motorcycling world.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's all I have.
That's all I have. I did just have one more thing to say to clarify on this, was that if you're going to be taking somebody out on your bike, you've listened to some of our tips, I guess, is what we're putting out there. And this is all stuff that you can find online to back this up. But most important is refer to your user manual. Yeah, refer to your user manual and just prioritize safety above all. Like, you can be reckless on your own as much as you want. Like, ride within your limits, and ride within your limits, but also consider, like, your passenger. You also have a passenger who may or may not be familiar with bikes, and you don't want to scare them off that. Or do you want to be like hurt them? Do you want to be the asshole on YouTube that's dumping a girl off the back of his bike trying to do a wheelie? So many of those clips. I'm just like, bro, why? You don't have to be that big of a show off. Well, having a motorcycle there are cool people enough. Who enjoy that kind of stuff, and that enjoying getting that thrill, that adrenaline stuff. Go do it, but do it in your skill limit, bud. Yeah, doing your skill limit, and also don't make your passenger part of your problem. Yeah, like part of your thrill seeking, especially if they're not like comfortable with it. And it's always the squids doing it too. Yeah, it's like if they want to go with you, explain to them your skill level and you can do it. But you're kind of in charge there, bud. You gotta whoever the rider is, or it's a man, woman giving whoever a ride. Yeah, and I just think it's like you're not only responsible for yourself at that point, you're responsible for also your passenger. And I would feel so terrible if I got somebody hurt. Like if I got hurt on my own bike, okay, it's either my fault or somebody else. Like, dealing with your own medical bills is expensive enough. You don't need to get sued. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have. Yeah, that's pretty much I had. So cool. Anyway, I hope everyone has had a good Valentine's Day. And if you live somewhere warm enough to ride, I hope you and your person went out and rode. Yeah, that's true. And if you have any up or they have their own bike. Yeah, that's the way to go. And if you do have any fun two-up riding stories you want to share with us, once again, feel free to shoot us an email at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. That's it. It's a wrap. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. See ya.